Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about this is actually going to be a little bit different because I never do this. I usually do a topic by itself, and then I do a movie, ministry, what have you, by itself. But last night God revealed something to me, and when I looked at what I was going to do, one of the words that I needed to release was so in alignment with the film and what I wanted to talk about. I said, you know what? We're going to just do it. We're going to ride through the word and break it down. So this is the very first time I'm ever doing this. I'm taking a movie that I looked at. I actually looked at the live action performance version of this film, and we're going to break that down while going through these elements of what I needed to tell you, because it was so many references in there that was so on point. Only glory to God, because I wasn't going to look at this film, but I've been seeing hints of it in places. So I've been like, and when it was brought up yesterday, I said, I'm going to touch on the points that I'm hearing and seeing. So this is what I want to say. And I may even bring in some of the points that I got this morning. So when you are empowered, you can grow. Now, you may go through things in life that may make you feel disempowered, disingenuous, just depressed. And all of these, notice they start with dis, like dis-ease. Disease is a dis-ease, an ease of spirit. All of these types of things, anything that makes you feel underneath, oppressed. Now, the saddest thing about our society is the fact that people try to hold people down instead of build people up. Now, how is this going to work into what I'm going to speak about with this film? Well, it actually is a perfect metaphor, I believe, because I'm talking about The Little Mermaid. What? Everybody knows this is one of the most controversial topics right now, especially with what has been revealed about who the new character is going to be to play Ariel in society. We're going to leave that alone. But I feel like it's almost in perfect alignment because even I have the red hair right now. But we're going to look at it through two lenses. We're going to look at Joseph and Ariel in tandem. Okay? So, what am I saying? Joseph was oppressed because of the fact that he shared his dream with his family and his siblings, while Ariel didn't. But because people wanted to know everything about her and she was constantly always being monitored, they figured certain things out because they were constantly watching her. Pause. For those of you that have been in a season where you have felt oppressed, depressed, underwater, in an element where you felt like, I ain't gonna use that reference, but it's the element of being oppressed underwater, where you felt like everything could be better if you could just reach the surface. If you could just be seen, whether it be by the people that are around you, be heard by the people that you've respected for years. I've always been that person that I would be right in front of people and I would have such respect for them, but they would constantly disrespect me. And I would sit and watch them do for others what they did not do for me. But I was looked at as like, I could have been an apprentice. I remember one time I was in fashion school and there was this woman, she was a teacher of mine, and she had her own fashion line. She was living by coastal. She was going from New York coming back to Baltimore, and she was talking about, oh, I went to the fashion shows, but she was stuck up. And when I came to her, I just used to seek advice. I'm the type of person, I used to like to hear people's stories. I like to hear all of those types of things. And she was the type of woman that she liked almost too much to share everything that she was doing. Oh, I just came back from New York. I had to do a show. I was just with Santino from the fashion runway show, almost like that. And it's like, but then she would come to me and be like, oh, don't respond to me like this and do this. And oh, don't and I'm saying, like, what in the world is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I'm thinking this. But because she's my boss at this particular point in time, I'm like, but my very friend that was in one of her other classes, I think we were actually in the same class, she would sit and giggle and laugh with her. It's like, oh, this and oh, this, and I can help you with that. But I'd ask her for help for the same thing, and she'd be like, it's like, oh, you didn't do that sketch right, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this. And I'm saying, like, is there any level of respect that you have for me at all? You respect her, but I'm also a student in your same class, and it seems like you have no respect for me. How many of y'all can raise your hands that you knew people that did that? They would rather treat you down because they can see the light on you. They'd rather talk about you, look around at you, see all this kind of stuff with you. And there was an incident that occurred, and it was so not my fault. I literally heard one of her assistants say that she was coming in late the next day. She must have changed her mind and came in on time because the assistant said that she was coming in late. They confirmed that she was coming in late. She had just left. Was like, I'm coming in late tomorrow. The next day, she comes in on time. One of her students comes in just before she comes in asking where she at because she was a little late. And I was like, well, they said that she was coming in late. And that's all I said. All because I said that. That student went to the rest of the students. Now, I'm not in control of what that person did, but she went and told everybody. When that person told everybody, they all said they dipped. She comes in like literally 5 minutes late, maybe that much. She walks in and the assistant don't say nothing. She goes to the classroom, like, where's everybody? I didn't know they all left, but I should have figured that it's a class. If teacher don't show up, let's dip out before teacher does show up. Is what it was. Oh, she was bitter at me for the rest of the semester. That wasn't my fault. Point. That you may have scenarios and situations that will make people look at you in a specific way that don't even have nothing to do with you. You have to go outside of what you know in order to find people willing to encourage you. Joseph needed to leave. Just like in the situation with Jonah, he was put into a belly of a whale during a situation that he would not have chosen and rerouted to get him there. Now, with Joseph, he wasn't put in the belly of a whale. He was taken into slavery that put him into the position to be at the Pharaoh's palace in the first place, to become one of his slave servants. But he was one that was most highly respected, even in the servants. Ariel, if you give another, if given another choice, she would not have taken the route to get to the prince. Now, from the first time you are born, you are broken down and not empowered. Think about your childhood. Think about the fact that depending on what family, race, cultural standing, and the way that family orientation was, you were not empowered growing up. Because most of the time, a lot of people can say this, the first thing that happens as a child, you're told all the things you're not supposed to do. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And of course, it's the fact that they got to protect you from touching things and all of these kinds of things. But it's sometimes due to the fact of what your parents are going through at the time and generational curses upon them, they may not support you the way that you need support. I actually didn't go through this as a child. My mother was very supportive of anything that I did. She watched what I did as a child, and she was very supportive of if I was into art. She fought tooth and nail to make sure that I did anything that I needed to do in relation to my creative capabilities. I'm at your teacher's class. I'm going to talk to your teacher. I'm going to make an arrangement to make sure that you are getting the help that you need. And even the teacher would work with her. This is another reason why people were jealous of me. People were like, your mom actually talks to the teacher. Your mom. So they wouldn't say that to me. They would just abuse me because they're like, it's that element of, I'm not going to tell you that the reason I'm jealous of you is because your mom does stuff that my mom would never do. But I'm going to abuse you regardless. You get what I'm saying? Because they see the support that I had. My mom was there. My mom used to walk around school every single morning. And then she would pop her head into the classroom and be like, hi, how you doing? Now, a lot of kids, they would hate it if their mom was doing that because they knew that would make them a target for bullying. I loved it. I loved my mom. And my mom was best friends with the teacher's assistant, so she had eyes on everybody. Because the teacher's assistant would go and talk to her afterwards. So if anything went awry, that some of the teachers hated me for that. Hated me. I remember, I'll never forget. There was what was it? There was a childhood bully for 3 years in elementary school. He hated my guts. And he was dealing with a homosexual spirit. And he, in the 5th grade, last year elementary school, said blatantly to my mama's face, he called her a bitch in front of the whole classroom. And I sat there like, the only thing that probably kept her from going off was because that's not my child, it's not my child, it's not my child, it's not my child. Because the mother that I knew, him have been my brother or something like that, he wouldn't have had no behind left. Because I know the little petty things that I did that caused me to get a butt whooping. Oh, he wouldn't have had no behind left. And his mouth would have never opened up again. Never again. For what he did to my mama. I was like, ugh. But because that wasn't her child, she didn't touch him. And all it was he was jealous. One of the main reasons he was my bully was because he was jealous. He was jealous of me. Moving on. But this is the case. Joseph was being compared to his brothers by his brothers. Because I don't believe his father was comparing him to his brothers. His father loved him. Remember, his father gave him the Technicolor Dreamcoat in the first place. It was them that had the problem. Ariel, on the other hand, was her father's favorite daughter. Ariel had anywhere from 6 to 7 siblings. Do we even recall, if I didn't tell you right now, when you think of the Little Mermaid, did you ever think that she had any siblings? We don't hear about them. Matter of fact, actually, if you look at the film, you don't even see them but in that scene. They were not even barely worth mentioning. I think there may have been one other scene that they were in. So when it comes down to it, Ariel, she was one that went off. She did what she wanted to do. When they were doing the main performance, and I need to stop and say this, we're dealing with marine spirits right here. This is the classic scenario of a marine spirit. You have a person that does not belong within this marine kingdom. She did not belong within the marine kingdom. So let me say that from starter points. She did not belong in the marine kingdom because she was meant to walk on land. Some of you, or some that will listen to this word, you have been in an environment that you didn't belong to. A lot of the people that I listen to either have dealt with being adopted or parents married into other type of families. Meaning, for instance, your mother married somebody else that lived a different way and you're like the ostracized child. Or maybe you were adopted. I was adopted. Keys to Kingdom was adopted. Some people have dealt with that element. So you actually aren't in your royal standing, but people can see you and know something's different about you. So what do? They try to tear down the empowerment level. Okay, so with Ariel, she didn't belong there. She always sought to be elsewhere. There's a TV series called Underground that I used to watch all the time. And the main character in that had the exact same problem. She always sought to be elsewhere than the plantation. She always looked out the window and gazed externally at what the world looked like outside of the plantation. A lot of us have been in a spiritual plantation, or in this type of case, she was in a water prison. Some prisons don't look like prisons. That's the most dangerous prison you can ever be in, is the one that doesn't look like a prison. You don't have any chains on your arms. You don't have anything showing that you are a number, or that there are bars on your doors to prevent you from leaving. The situation is so comfortable that the only way that you can leave this prison is to change your mind. Break free. And that's one of the hardest prisons to break out of. You get what I'm saying? So Ariel was in a water prison, and she was surrounded by marine spirits. Do a search on what marine spirits are. Marine spirits are usually what male warlocks deal with. But we are going to cover as I break this down, and I'm getting a ring in my ear. Bless Jesus for whatever answers you're about to reveal unto me. Oh, 11:44. That means it's an exodus of some sort. Lazarus woke up in the tomb and was told to come forth. So coming forth is coming. That was just something I got in that moment. Let's see. Maybe that means something to somebody. I just go as I flow. Next. Where was I? Marine spirits, Medusa. Medusa? We look at Ursula's character. Ursula was a witch that had 8 tentacles. If we go back and we look at the word that I did on Daniel, let's see if I can find it. I'm going to tell you what the tentacles are going to mean for as it relates to Ursula. Found it. I had to actually sit and look. Couldn't find the document it was on, but I remember that I put it in our community posts for the community in the about section. So, Leviathan. Leviathan, that's what Ursula represents. Leviathan. Lust, greed, malice, unhappiness, rage, living in your own will, envy, and jealousy. This is what each one of her tentacles represent, okay? Keep that in mind. I gotta go back to the article in which we were just looking at. So, that being said, Ariel is in a marine kingdom in which she is actually being held spiritually prisoner. Her spirit does not belong here. She's in a place where everything would feel naturally comfortable, but she wants to be outside of it. She wants to be in the world. She wants to see the world where, from the perspective of what it looks like above water. A lot of us have been in seasons that we have felt oppressed. We felt underwater. We felt underneath of something. There was a song. More importantly, there was a video by the musician Maxwell that did was it Woman's Work? I think it was Woman's Work. You remember the video concept where he was underwater and he couldn't reach the surface? You remember that? If you don't, watch the video. But that's what it's felt like to us. We felt like we couldn't reach the surface, that we were underneath the water. But with this situation, she is desiring that other world. As children, the world is your oyster. She's surrounded with her siblings. They perform. They have oysters. They have all of these types of stuff. It literally, her world is an oyster. You see things, and there's nothing you can do from that point. You are torn down and chipped away to be reprimanded and conformed to fitting instead in the level of what you feel needs to be your level of empowerment. And people around you will do this. And it was funny enough, Shantia did a word yesterday talking about you've got to get away from people that want to keep you in what they feel is comfortable for you. I need to see where we at because I paused it. Okay. So if you see the world one way, everyone closest to you with their best interests will try to throw you into a pit and lord their authority over you. For her, think of crabs in a barrel. You're trying to come out and they're trying to hold you down. Now, also, I'll say this, that there's this other thing. And one of the pastors that recently left my church, he used to tell this story of the monkey. He would be in a cage. They did an experiment with several monkeys where they would put monkeys in a habitat. It would be 5 monkeys. One monkey they would give him the one would have more of a knowledge of the fact that, oh, there's a banana. He would try to figure out a route in order to get to this banana, and he would manage to climb up and climb out to get to the banana. As they added other monkeys, the other monkeys would come in and they would start to, when the monkey that noticed the banana would go up towards it, they would actually start to fight. And things would be thrown at them, things would be what have you. Meaning they were literally becoming hurt by him going up there towards where the banana was. So what would happen is, due to the aggression and the realization, wait, we getting beat up every time you go after that banana, hold up. You can't do that. So we're going to start pulling you back down. And they would always just add another monkey and rotate the experiment. And for every monkey that was added, that would mean more monkeys were beating up the ones down in the lower group, and more monkeys would be trying to pull that one monkey back down. So the fact of the matter is, if you're trying to get out of a situation, the people around you may try to keep you in. One of the scenes in the movie, Ariel had seen the prince, or the guy that was on the ship. His name was Eric. And she saw him, and she had first, I think, seen him when she had first went out to see her seagull friend. And then she went to the boat and she saw him on the boat with the rest of the pirates or the crew or whatever they did out on the water. And she was observing that. And then the storm rolled in and he fell off the boat. She ended up bringing him up onto the water. When she came back after the storm, I don't know whether she had managed to drag his statue but somehow she ended up with the statue in her sanctum of her little underwater world, because they had made a statue of him and she somehow had it. I don't know how she got it. I don't know if she dragged it down there. I don't know if she swam with it down there, but she somehow was in her sanctum. And her father found it. When her father found it, he was like, "You've been up in the real world, haven't you? You keep going up there. Why do you keep going up there? I keep telling you not to." And he had a conniption fit. But the point of it is that Him having the conniption fit was not because I hate you, I don't like you, I don't like them. You saw right after he had destroyed half of her property, stating, well, if you don't appreciate what I've given you down here, then I'm going to destroy everything, including the statue of him. And she had a crying fit. But as he was turning away, seeing her crying, you saw his expression on his face become saddened. It was like you saw two sides of him. You saw the anger in him towards her, but you actually saw the father in him in more fear that he was going to lose her if she actually did leave. That was more of his fear instead of hers. So he had to do everything to hold her down to keep her there. The things that parents do to try to keep hold of you is, for a driven child, that's just going to push him farther away. Don't know why it happens. I'm going to pause right here and we're going to start up again in the next one because I've got more to discuss. Coming up next, more on The Little Mermaid and Joseph.